When everyone thought she was just another new girl, the school bully struck first. One shove, one hallway, one mistake. But what he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that she was Vin Diesel's daughter, and someone was watching. The halls buzzed with the usual morning madness. Lockers slammed, sneakers squeaked, laughter echoed like a challenge. At Roosevelt High, survival wasn't about grades, it was about status. At the center of it all stood Zachary Malone, or Zach as everyone called him. Quarterback, blonde, tall. The kind of smile that charmed teachers and scared freshmen, but it wasn't a smile today. He stood near the vending machines, arms crossed, watching the main doors with practiced arrogance. He always watched, waiting for weakness. "New girl today," mumbled Jake, his sidekick, chewing gum with no rhythm. Zach didn't answer. His blue eyes locked onto the front doors as they slowly swung open. And she walked in. Kennedy Rivers stepped through like the hallway didn't exist. No glance left, no glance right. She had a hoodie half zipped over a black t-shirt, jeans with a small tear on the left knee, and box braids that fell softly around her face. Her skin was deep brown, her eyes unreadable. A quiet storm. She walked with a bag slung low and a rhythm in her step that made people turn, though she wasn't trying to be seen. People whispered, "She transferred from LA or something. Why is she walking like that? Is she lost?" But Kennedy heard none of it, or pretended not to. Her heart beat steadily, but fast. New city, new school, new life. That's what Vin had promised. "A fresh start, baby girl," he said that morning, as he handed her the keys to her locker and kissed her forehead. But he hadn't told her how cold high school eyes could be, or how silence could attract attention faster than shouting. She sat across from Vin Diesel, yes, the Vin Diesel, in a quiet kitchen with white marble counters and framed photos lining the walls. Him in sunglasses, him holding her at a red carpet event, him smiling in a black tank top like always. "I don't want to stand out," she said, barely above a whisper. Vin's voice was low, gravel and velvet. "You won't need to," he said, "because standing tall ain't about being seen. It's about being solid. You already are." She smiled. Barely. He winked. Zach watched her walk down the hallway alone. No phone out, no headphones, just her and 1,000 eyes. "I give it 3 days before she begs to sit at our table," Jake sneered. Zach smirked. "I give it 1. Then he stepped out. Kennedy reached locker 312B. She twisted the lock. A piece of paper had been stuck through the vent. "Go back where you came from." She stared at it, unblinking, then calmly folded it and put it in her pocket. "Hey!" a voice barked. Zach stood behind her now. Close, too close. Kennedy turned slowly. "You lost or just deaf?" Zach asked. She didn't answer. Students around them slowed. Phones discreetly angled in their direction. A crowd was forming. Zach wasn't used to silence, not when he spoke. "I said, who told you this hallway was yours?" Kennedy looked at him. Her voice, when it came, was calm, but sharp. No one had to. Whispers. Jake chuckled in disbelief. "She's got a mouth." Zach stepped closer. "Let me make something clear. Around here you earn your space." Kennedy didn't flinch. She didn't move. Her eyes stayed on his. Then came the shove. It wasn't hard, but it was loud. Kennedy's shoulder hit the locker. The crowd gasped. Zach stepped back, expecting fire, but she just stood up straight, smoothed her hoodie, and said nothing. She walked past him without looking back. That silence. It burned worse than any comeback. Kennedy sat quietly as the principal, Mr. Lawson, scanned the incident report. "You're not pressing charges?" he asked, surprised. "No." He leaned forward. "We can suspend him. You know that, right?" She nodded once. "But you're not asking for it?" "No." Lawson sighed. "You don't have to be afraid, Kennedy. You're not alone here." She looked up. "Just for a second. I know." From across the street, a black Dodge Ram sat parked, engine silent. Inside, Vin Diesel watched. He had seen it all. Every step, every shove, every choice. His jaw clenched slowly. If you were in Kennedy's shoes, would you have walked away, or made sure the whole school saw you fight back? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. What would you have done? Zach punched the locker hard enough to rattle it. "Dude, chill," Jake muttered. Zach ran his hand through his hair and paced. His phone buzzed, again. Courtney Perez tagged him in a hallway video. Already 147 likes. Caption: Bro got ghosted by a mute Chaka Kennedy Chuck new girl. Zach didn't care about the girl. He cared about the reaction, the crowd, the silence, the way she didn't look afraid. And worst of all, how she walked away like he was the one who lost. Kennedy sat at the back, eyes on the clock, one hand in her hoodie pocket, fingers nervously folding the note from her locker. She hadn't told Vin, not yet. She didn't want to hear him offer to handle it. She didn't want protection. She wanted to be left alone. The teacher's voice faded into background static. Her eyes scanned the room. They all kept sneaking glances. Even now they whispered about her, not because she was weak, because she hadn't reacted. And that scared them more. Kennedy took the long way home, past the soccer field, past the old oak tree, past the broken bench where someone had carved "Screw this school" into the wood. She pulled out her phone. One unread message from Dad. "Everything okay today? I'm outside if you need me or want tacos." She smiled. Just a little. Typed, "All good. Walking. Save me extra sour cream." Then she froze. Because leaning against the school fence was Zach, arms crossed, waiting. He stepped forward. Kennedy didn't stop walking. "I just want to talk," Zach said. She said nothing. He caught up. "Hey, I'm serious." Still no reply. "Look, He ran a hand down his face, frustrated. "Why'd you let me shove you like that and just walk away?" Kennedy stopped, turned to him slowly, her voice calm as always. "Is that your apology?" Zach blinked. No, I guess I didn't mean—" "You're not used to people ignoring you, are you?" He frowned. "I'm not used to people acting like they're better." "I didn't act like anything," she said. "You made that up." He stepped closer, voice low. "You don't know what it's like here." Kennedy's face didn't change. "You think I haven't been to schools like this before?" Zach hesitated. He didn't expect this. Kennedy walked away, and that silence burned again. Vin stirred a pot of chili with one hand and scrolled through his phone with the other. On screen, a blurry hallway video, the shove, Kennedy hitting the locker, then walking off like nothing happened. He exhaled through his nose. Calm. Too calm. She walked in. He glanced up. "You saw it?" she asked. He nodded. "Are you mad?" He shook his head. "Not even a little." He looked at her. "You handled it better than I would have." Kennedy let out a soft laugh and sat at the counter. "You wanted to say something," Vin said, not asking, knowing. "I didn't want to embarrass you," she said. "I know people recognize you. I want to be me here." "You are you," Vin said. "With or without my name." She nodded. Silent. He slid a bowl in front of her. "You ever hear the phrase, 'Don't pick fights with quiet people'?" She smirked. "You made that up?" "Maybe," he shrugged. Still true. If this moment right here made you feel something, even a flicker, don't just watch and scroll. These stories take time, heart, tears. If you felt Kennedy's silence or Vin's strength, then be part of this. Subscribe. Don't just witness the journey, join it. Kennedy sat at a table, headphones in, pretending to study. But her eyes kept drifting toward the windows. She didn't like this attention. She hated the whispers. Across the library, Zach sat at another table, alone. He looked rough, like he hadn't slept. He stared at a book without reading it. He was thinking about the video, about how many people had laughed, about the voice in his head that sounded like his father. "Don't let anyone make you look weak." And yet, in that moment in the hallway, he had been the weak one. Kennedy had done nothing and made him feel everything. His dad, drunk, watching a game, screaming at the TV. "Get up, you loser. You want to be respected? Then earn it." Zach, 12, stood in the doorway, flinching at every shout. Zach shut the book, then looked at her. Not angry, just confused. The sound of sneakers squeaking on hardwood echoed under the bleachers. Basketballs thudded, coaches yelled, but Zach wasn't hearing any of it. He moved through practice like a ghost, missing passes, airballing shots. "Malone," Coach Daniels bellowed. "What the hell is that?" Zach just shook his head, wiped sweat from his brow. His teammates noticed. The ones who used to cheer when he entered the room now avoided his eyes. That video, the one where the new girl walked away like a queen while he looked like a joke, was now everywhere. But that wasn't what stung. It was why it happened. He shoved her to prove something. And now, he didn't know what he'd proved at all. Kennedy sat alone, still, her lunch untouched, her tray a perfect rectangle of silence in a room of chaos. She wanted to eat. She wanted to pretend she didn't care. But it was different now. Zach hadn't said a word since yesterday, but everyone else had. Whispers trailed her like perfume. The strong new girl title was becoming a crown she never asked for. She hated it. All she wanted was to exist, not dominate, not make a point. Just be. Kennedy splashed water on her face, looked in the mirror, and for the first time, she saw a flicker of fear behind her eyes. Not from Zach, from the attention. Her silence had become legend, but it was also a target now, and people were watching. Zach waited again, same spot, but not for her. He waited for Mr. Lawson, the principal. "Malone," Lawson said as he stepped outside, briefcase in hand. "I'm not in trouble, right?" Zach tried to play it off with a grin. Lawson didn't smile back. "Should you be?" Zach shrugged. The silence hung thick between them. Finally, Zach said it. "I think I messed up." Lawson gave him a look. Not cold, not forgiving, just real. "What are you afraid of, Zach?" Zach blinked. "What?" "Most bullies. They don't start out trying to hurt people. They're scared, angry, trying to win at something they're already losing." Zach said nothing. Lawson walked away. Kennedy sat on her bed, scrolling through messages. DMs from strangers. "You're the girl from the video, right? You're a legend, LOL." He deserved it. A message from Zach, and then, "Can we talk?" She stared at the screen, didn't respond. Vin stood beneath the hood of a car, hands greasy, muscles flexing. Classic rock played low in the background. Kennedy stood in the doorway. "He messaged me." Vin didn't look up. "What did he say?" "Wants to talk." "And what do you want?" She shrugged. "I don't know." Vin set the wrench down, wiped his hands, walked over. "Kennedy, you don't owe anyone anything. Not your silence, not your story, not even your forgiveness." "But what if he's not the villain?" Vin raised an eyebrow. "People don't always mean to hurt," she said. "Sometimes they just don't know what they're doing." He smiled faintly. "You're smarter than me," he said. "I just hit people." She laughed. For real this time. Zach stared at his phone. No reply. He tossed it onto his bed, looked at the cracked photo frame on his nightstand. Him and his dad, the one who walked out 2 years ago, a man who taught him fists before feelings. Kennedy opened her locker to find a folded piece of paper, but this time it wasn't a threat. It read, "I was wrong. You didn't deserve that. I don't expect you to respond. I just wanted you to know." It wasn't signed, but she knew. Kennedy slipped into the back of the auditorium, empty during lunch period. She sat in the silence, alone, until someone sat down 2 seats away. Zach. She didn't look at him. "I wrote the note," he said softly. She nodded, still not looking. "I don't know why I'm like this," he whispered. "You don't have to explain." "Yes, I do." He finally turned to her. "I'm angry, all the time. And when I saw you, confident, quiet, untouchable, I wanted to break it, because I couldn't stand that I didn't have it. Kennedy's voice was gentle. You can't take what someone earns. You can only learn it. They sat in silence. Kennedy stood on the sidelines, arms crossed. The gym echoed with voices. Today was Peer Conflict Resolution Day, a mandatory program the school ran twice a year after high-profile incidents. Lucky for them, this year, Kennedy and Zach were assigned to the same group. Of course. Kennedy looked across the gym where Zach sat hunched forward on a folding chair, bouncing his knee like he wanted to sprint out the door. "You've got to be kidding me," she muttered under her breath. A social worker named Ms. Felton sat at the front, mid-30s, soft-spoken, but steel in her posture. There were 5 students in the group. Zach and Kennedy sat far apart. Ms. Felton spoke gently. "We're not here to blame, we're here to listen." Zach stared at the floor. Kennedy stared at the clock. "We're going to do an exercise," Ms. Felton continued. "You'll each finish this sentence. If you really knew me." Silence. Then Zach, without looking up. "If you really knew me, you'd know I'm not proud of anything I've done this week." Ms. Felton nodded. "Thank you, Zach." Kennedy sighed. "If you really knew me..." She paused. "You'd know I didn't come here to fight anyone. I came here to forget who I used to be." That line made Zach look up for the first time. Her voice didn't shake, but her hands tightened in her lap. The group ended. The hallway was emptying. Zach caught up with her. "Hey." She stopped. "I didn't know," he said. "About you." "About what?" "Who your dad is." She blinked. "Why would that matter?" Zach opened his mouth, closed it, struggled. "I think it's because I grew up thinking people only respected you if you made them scared of you." Kennedy tilted her head. "And now? I see you. And no one's scared, but everyone's listening." That hit her differently. Ms. Felton had asked them to pair up for a 1-hour reflection activity. Everyone else bailed. Only Kennedy and Zach stayed. They sat at a back table, books towering around them like emotional barricades. "I didn't want to stay," Kennedy said. "I'm tired of this." "I did," Zach replied. "Why?" "Because I feel like the only time I'm actually real is when I'm talking to you." She looked at him. For the first time, really looked at him. "You ever been hit?" she asked. He nodded slowly. "Too many times." "You ever hit back?" "Once." "Did it help?" "No." She sat back. "Yeah, me neither." A younger Kennedy stands in a cramped room while 2 older girls tear pages from her favorite book. She doesn't cry. She doesn't speak. She just clenches her fists and walks away. Because pain didn't make her weak, it made her silent. Zach fiddled with a broken pencil. He finally said, "You could have humiliated me that day." "I know." "Why didn't you?" Kennedy shrugged. "Because I know what it feels like to be humiliated in front of people who don't even care." Zach stared at her, shame washing over his face. "I don't want to be that guy anymore," he said. Kennedy didn't smile, but she didn't walk away either. Vin sat with Kennedy on the couch, both eating out of popcorn bowls. "So, you and the linebacker are friends now," she scoffed. "Not friends." Vin raised an eyebrow. "Not enemies either, though." She rolled her eyes. "Maybe." He looked at her gently. "You're allowed to forgive people, you know." "I know. But don't do it just because you feel sorry for them. Forgive when you're ready. Not when they are." She nodded, then smiled faintly. "You're better at this than I thought." Vin grinned. "I've had practice. You forget, I adopted you, didn't I?" She laughed for real. "At this point, what do you think Zach should do? Follow his pride or follow his heart? Can someone who hurt you become someone you trust? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you're still here, you're clearly feeling this, so go ahead, subscribe. Stories like this don't tell themselves. Zach walked beside Kennedy, not behind, not ahead, beside. People stared. He didn't care. She didn't either. No words were exchanged. But something had changed. The silence between them. It wasn't war anymore. It was peace. Zach sat across from Kennedy at their usual table. It had somehow become theirs now, claimed not by words but by quiet understanding. She was sketching something in her notebook. He was pretending to read. "Why'd you move here?" he asked suddenly. Kennedy paused, looked up. Needed a reset. He waited, not pushing. She tapped her pen on the page. Then, for the first time, she opened up. A younger Kennedy, maybe 13, sat on the steps of a rundown apartment. Sirens in the background. Her arms hugged her knees tight. Inside, her last foster mom screamed at someone, a man. A belt slammed on the counter. Kennedy didn't flinch. That was the night she decided. No one was ever going to break her again. "I've been in 5 foster homes," she said. "Only one of them didn't involve police." Zach looked down. "I used to think something was wrong with me, like maybe I deserved it." He shook his head. "No, you didn't." She smiled faintly. "Vin, he found me during some charity thing. I wasn't supposed to be there. I snuck in to steal snacks." Zach blinked. "Seriously?" Kennedy laughed, for real this time. "Yup. He caught me mid-snickerdoodle." "And he adopted you?" "Not right away. But he saw me. Like, really saw me. That was the first time I felt—" Zach swallowed hard. "I've never told anyone this before either." She looked at him. "I'm listening." A young Zach sat on the stairs, blood on his lip. His dad passed out on the couch with a bottle dangling from one hand. His mom wasn't home. She rarely was. Zach took a breath. Quiet, numb. He cleaned himself up in silence. "My dad used to call me weak if I cried," Zach said. "Told me men fix problems with fists." Kennedy's voice was soft. "That's not strength. That's fear dressed up in anger." Zach nodded. "I think I was scared of how strong you were. You didn't need to hit me to win." She tilted her head. "I didn't want to win. I just wanted you to leave me alone." He smiled, sheepish. "Mission failed." She chuckled. Vin leaned against the hood of a car as Kennedy sat nearby, wiping grease from her fingers. "You talked to him again?" he asked. She nodded. "A lot, actually." Vin raised an eyebrow. She laughed. "No, it's not like that. I'm just not used to people who want to understand instead of control." Vin looked at her seriously. "You know, you don't owe anyone your story." "I know. But sharing it, that's power too." The teacher asked everyone to bring a personal object for show and tell week. Zach stood at the front with a football in his hand. "This used to be the only thing I cared about, because if I was good enough at this, no one looked too hard at who I really was." Kennedy watched him, something unreadable in her eyes. "But now—" Zach looked at her briefly. "Now I want to be good at something else, like listening, and maybe being real." The class was quiet. The teacher nodded. "Thank you, Zach." He sat down. Kennedy's sketchbook was still open on her desk. The page? A sketch of a football, cracked, but glowing from the inside. This is the part most people never see. The truth behind the silence, the bruises beneath the smiles. If this act made you pause, even for a second, then subscribe. Stories like this are why we're here. And maybe, just maybe, they're why you're here too. Kennedy and Zach sat side by side. No words, just the kind of silence that felt safe now. After a while, Zach said, "You ever forgive people who didn't say sorry?" She nodded. "Yeah, sometimes you have to free yourself." He looked at her. "Then maybe I owe you another one." "You already said it," she replied. "I know, but this one's for real." He looked her in the eyes. "I'm sorry." Kennedy took a deep breath, then whispered, "I know." The sun hung low over the empty football field. Kennedy and Zach sat high up on the bleachers, their bags beside them, the silence stretching, but not uncomfortable. She looked out at the empty field. "This place looks better when no one's in it." Zach smirked. "Same could be said about this entire school." She snorted. "Facts." He looked at her. "That's the first time I've heard you laugh." I laughed before. Not like that. She shook her head, smiling now. Don't get used to it. Kennedy sat at a corner table awkwardly holding a half-melted scoop of cookies cream. Zach returned from the counter carrying 2 sodas and a nervous energy. I still can't believe I convinced you to do this, he said. She raised an eyebrow. You didn't. I just like ice cream. Right, he chuckled. That's definitely why we're here. She looked around at the pastel walls and smiling families. Something about it felt safe. Zach leaned in. Can I ask you something weird? No promises on an answer. He hesitated. Does he, Vin, feel like a real dad? Kennedy blinked, then nodded. He's more of a dad than anyone else ever tried to be. Zach's eyes softened. You ever miss the others? She shrugged. You don't miss what you never really had. That silence held them for a moment. Then Kennedy added, You? Zach looked down at his soda. I miss the version of my dad I made up in my head, not the one who actually lived with us. They both went quiet. But the silence? Still safe. Kennedy walked through the door. Vin looked up from the couch. Late, he said. I know. He raised an eyebrow. Trouble? She tossed him a half-melted pint of ice cream. Peace offering. He opened it. Took a bite. This almost makes up for the fact that your location was off. Kennedy grinned. You tracked me? I track everyone I love. She rolled her eyes, but blushed a little too. I'm okay, you know. Vin gave her a long look. You sure? She nodded. I talked to Zach. It was different this time. Vin leaned back. Different good or different concerning? Good, she said. For now. Zach found her sitting at the piano bench. She wasn't playing, just sitting. I didn't know you liked music, he said. Kennedy looked over her shoulder. Didn't know you had a sense of curiosity. He stepped in, sat beside her. You play? She asked. Not since I was little. You wanna? Zach shook his head. I'm better at messing up than making music. She placed his hand on one of the keys, played a soft chord. Then let's mess it up together. They played, badly. It was the best song in the world. Jake, Zach's old sidekick, approached him by the lockers. You hanging with her now? Zach didn't even look up. Yeah, Jake scoffed. So that's who you are now. Zach closed his locker. No, that's who I was when I cared what you thought. Jake stared. You've changed, man. Thank God, Zach said, and walked away. Kennedy and Zach sat under a tree, her sketchbook in her lap, his hoodie thrown over the grass. She showed him her latest sketch, him, standing under a light post, head tilted back, eyes closed. I look like I'm trying to feel something, he said. You are. They both smiled. She asked quietly, You think we'll still talk next year? He nodded. Yeah. What about after high school? He hesitated. I want to. She closed her sketchbook. Me too. Kennedy poured a glass of water. Vin leaned on the fridge. So, he's your person now? She smirked. No, he's just someone who gets it. Vin smiled. Don't let him forget that you're mine first. She chuckled. He knows. Zach and Kennedy walked across the quad. She reached out, flicked his arm. You know I still don't trust you fully, right? He grinned. I'm working on it. You better. They kept walking, the warmth between them, unmistakable, but the clouds on the horizon, looming. Kennedy walked down the hall, earbuds in, hoodie up, sketchbook tucked under her arm. But something was off. The hallway was quieter than usual. Whispers, eyes. She took out one earbud, slowed her pace, then saw the phones. Screens pointed at her. Again. Zach's phone buzzed. He pulled it out, squinting at the screen. Jake Clark, real, had posted a video. It started normal, just footage from a party Saturday night. Zach and Kennedy laughing by a bonfire. Then, the audio was edited. Zach's voice spliced in to say, She's not even from here. She just plays the victim to get attention. Zach's stomach dropped. He hadn't said that. He knew he hadn't. Kennedy stood frozen in front of a group of students replaying the video on loop. Did you hear what he said about her? Fake. Guess he never really changed. Her heart pounded. Vin's voice echoed in her memory. Don't let someone else tell your story. She turned, saw Zach approaching. Zach rushed after her. Kennedy, wait, it's not real. She stopped, turned, eyes cold, voice flat. You expect me to believe that? It was edited. Jake posted it. He's trying to make me look. I don't care how it looks, Zach. I care how it feels. And right now, it feels like I got played. His face fell. You really think I'd say that about you? I don't know what to think. 1 minute you're real, the next, I'm the joke again. She stepped back. He reached out. Please, don't. That word hit like a blade. Zach's hand dropped. She walked away. Again. But this time, it wasn't silence that followed. It was heartbreak. Kennedy curled up on the couch, her sketchbook shut, untouched. Vin sat beside her, silent. She finally spoke. Why does it always end like this? He looked at her. Because the world still hasn't figured out how to hold people like you. She didn't cry, but her voice cracked. I thought he was different. Vin rested a hand on her shoulder. You're allowed to be wrong. That doesn't make you the mistake. Zach paced, phone in hand, jaw clenched. Jake hadn't responded to any of his messages. He went online. The video had 5,000 views. The comments? Guess the old Zach never really left. Wow. Poor Kennedy. Fake apologies hit different. He threw the phone across the room, punched the wall, slid to the floor, head in hands. I ruined everything. Kennedy sat alone again. It felt worse this time, not because people whispered, because she missed him. The way he listened, the way he saw her, and worst of all, the way she believed him. Zach waited by her usual path. She walked past him without slowing. Kennedy, please, just let me explain. She kept walking. I didn't say it. I swear on everything. Finally she stopped, spoke without turning around. You know what hurts the most? He waited. That I believed you changed, and maybe I was just a story for you to fix, something to make you feel better. She walked away. He didn't follow. Vin worked under the hood of a car. Kennedy stood in the doorway. Why do people lie? She asked. Vin looked up, grease on his fingers. Because truth is heavy, and not everyone's strong enough to carry it. She nodded. I wanted to believe him. That's because you're not broken, Kennedy. You still have hope. Don't ever lose that. She looked at him. I don't want to need anyone. You don't. You choose them. Have you ever trusted someone just to have them break it without even meaning to? Tell us below, because trust isn't just about love, it's about choice. If this scene hits you hard, don't just feel it alone. Subscribe. These stories, they're yours too. Their table, empty. Her sketchbook, closed. His seat, vacant. The bond, shattered. Rain tapped against the window like soft knuckles. Kennedy sat on her bed, sketchbook in her lap. But the pencil hadn't moved in an hour. The page was blank. So was she. Vin stood in the doorway. You haven't drawn anything in 3 days, he said quietly. She didn't answer. He stepped in, sat at the edge of her bed. You know, when I first met you, you didn't say a single word, but your eyes screamed. She looked up at him. They still do. I don't want to care, she whispered. I want to move on. Vin nodded. Then say what you need to say, even if it's goodbye. Zach stared at the message he'd typed 4 times and deleted 5. His hands hovered over the screen. I didn't say those words, but I understand why you don't believe me. Delete. I miss our silence. Delete. I'm sorry. I'll always be sorry. He hit send, paused, then deleted the whole thread. No message was sent. Kennedy sat under the same tree they used to meet at. Sketchbook open, pencil moving finally. She drew herself, alone, looking forward. Then a shadow appeared on the page. She looked up. It wasn't Zach, just a jogger passing by. She didn't know if she was relieved or disappointed. Zach walked past their usual table in the library. Empty. Again. His heart sank. He opened his locker and found something stuck inside. A sketch of the football field. 2 figures on opposite ends. He flipped it over. One sentence, written in soft pencil. Sometimes, even silence is a message. Kennedy stirred her tea in silence. Vin sat across from her watching. "I don't want to reach out," she said. "Okay. But," she sighed, "what if I'm the reason we don't fix this?" Vin leaned in. "Then you'll carry that longer than the pain he gave you." She looked up. He said gently, "Pride keeps you safe, but it also keeps you alone." Zach sat by his window, looking out at nothing. Then finally, he moved, picked up his phone, recorded a voice note. His voice cracked as he spoke. "I was so afraid of losing what little I had left. I ruined the one thing I didn't deserve but still hoped for. I didn't say those words in the video, but I didn't stop the world from believing I did. That's on me. I miss you, but if you don't want to hear from me again, I'll understand. I just needed to tell you the truth. For once." He hit send and waited. Her phone buzzed. A voice note from Zach. She stared at it, didn't play it, set the phone down, breathed, then picked it back up, hit play. She listened, and for the first time in days, the tension in her shoulders softened. Right here, this moment, the pause before forgiveness, the ache of being right but still hurting. Have you ever been there? Drop your story in the comments, and if you felt what they're feeling, you know what to do. Subscribe. Don't just watch love break, watch it heal. Zach sat on the floor near the lockers, backpack unopened, hood up. Kennedy walked past. He didn't look up. She stopped, turned, sat beside him. Just sat. He slowly looked over. She pulled out a pencil, held it out to him. "Draw something," she said. He took it, and everything unspoken between them started to heal. Kennedy sat alone at an easel, a brush in hand, dabbing gold into a streak of charcoal. The painting showed a hallway, a figure in the background, another in the foreground, both standing, both seen. The class was quiet. Zach entered through the back. He didn't speak. He just watched her work. When she looked up, their eyes met. No awkwardness, just something understood, something earned. They sat at their old table again, not facing each other, just sitting, reading, safe. Zach finally spoke. "I liked the sketch you left in my locker." Kennedy smiled. "It wasn't for you to like. It was for you to feel." He nodded slowly. "I did." A beat. Then she pulled out a folded paper, another drawing, herself and him, standing back to back, stronger. She slid it to him. "Keep it." Vin watched Kennedy hang one of her newest drawings above her bed. It was her and Vin, she 13. He, kneeling beside her, handing her a wrench. No words on the paper, just a moment frozen in love. Vin smiled. "You know," he said, "for a girl who hates attention, you sure know how to leave an impression." Kennedy grinned. "Must be genetic." He, Principal Mr. Lawson, stood at the mic. "We all make mistakes," he said, "but few of us own them, and fewer still grow from them." He gestured to the back row. "Today we recognize a student who proved change is possible." Zach stood up slowly. Applause started, then grew louder. Kennedy clapped too, not out of pity, but pride. Kennedy and Zach sat on the bleachers, eating cheap tacos. "You ever wonder why we had to go through all that?" he asked. She shrugged. "Maybe the world had to break us open before we could meet." "That sounds poetic." "I'm an artist." Zach leaned back. "Do you still think I was the bully?" Kennedy thought for a moment. "No." "Then what was I?" She smiled gently. "Broken. Like me. Just in a different way." Kennedy's art hung on display. Students, teachers, and parents wandered the room. Zach stood in front of one painting. It showed a girl, young, alone, clutching a broken crayon, drawing on cracked concrete. The caption, "She still drew anyway." He turned and found her nearby. "You ever gonna draw us again?" he asked. Kennedy smiled. "Maybe, but next time, I'll draw us facing the same direction." He held out his hand. She took it. "Do you believe true love or friendship can survive after being tested this hard? After pain, silence, betrayal? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you stayed through all 9 acts, it means you felt it. So, do one thing in return. Subscribe. For the stories that heal. For the stories that hold you." Kennedy walks through the hallway. Same one from the beginning. But now, no whispers, no stares, no cameras, just her. Head high. Zach joins her at the lockers. They exchange a glance, then walk side by side. No words, no need. Peace at last.